This video sponsor, Lost in Cult, best known for their high-end premium deep dive books on games like Outer Wilds, Valhalla, Animal Well, and Alan Wake, has just launched mouthwashing design works in partnership with Wrong Organ and Critical Reflex. This essential collection tells the development story of this contemporary horror classic, from its origins as an expansion for Wrong Organ's previous title through to its release and subsequent critical acclaim. Get 5% off your order when you use offer code SKILLMOUTH at checkout. Click the link below to check it out or stick around until the end of the video to learn more. Well, it's finally here, the game that got not one, but two dedicated Nintendo Directs. And they weren't just like 10-minute showcases, mind you. 45 minutes for the first one and an hour for the second. Sakurai clearly in the Nintendo boardroom yelling, if you want me to make another Smash, then I want to make an Air Riders game, and I want two Directs, and I want both of them to be unreasonably long. He gets away with it, of course, because this industry has no shortage of love for this man. He's a master game maker, having produced one of the most popular franchises of all time, but he's also someone who clearly loves the art form. In fact, he loves it so much that he created a YouTube channel devoted to teaching people how to make games. This is not someone who is closely guarding his secrets. He's spreading them far and wide in the hope that he can help the next generation of game makers make their games even better. He's also just cool and nerdy and pure, and we love him. I opened this review talking about Sakurai because I think Kirby Air Riders is actually for a very narrow subset of people, far more narrow than you might think, and one of those subsets is people who are interested in Sakurai's career, his studio, and their game-making philosophy. If you have played Smash or watched any of his YouTube videos, then you will really clearly see how connected Kirby Air Riders is to this man, to this studio, and their approach to making games. From the announcer voice, to the sound effects, to the way you dispatch foes and they get KO'd and they, fling off into the distance, vanishing with that little star. It's all textbook Sakurai, and you may look at this and think that this is Mario Kart with Kirby characters, but it's actually far, far closer to Smash Brothers with kart racing, and that's a combination of both the game modes, which we'll get into, but also the overall look, feel, and sound of this game. So if you're someone who follows Sakurai's career closely and you're really tuned into his game design lesson stuff, Kirby Air Riders was made for you because he's basically spent the most recent chapter of his career publishing a game-making rulebook, and this is the first game since then where we've been able to watch him put all that stuff into practice. But obviously, that is a super, super narrow subset of people, so who else might Kirby Air Riders be for? Is it for your average Mario Kart fan? Well, this is where I come back to what I said a moment ago. This ain't Mario Kart at all. It may look it, but it ain't. The distance between this and Mario Kart is the same distance between like Burnout and Gran Turismo. They're both racing games, but they couldn't be more different if they tried. Where Mario Kart is a pure racing game with some additional brawler game modes, it's better to think of Kirby Air Riders as a multiplayer party game with a huge focus on different game modes and formats, many of which are racing based, but many of which are brawler focused game modes. I said there's a lot of Smash in here, and there is, but there's also a lot of Mario Party, and I'd argue even WarioWare, since some of the game modes can be over in less than 30 seconds. There's a lot of those game modes, and a lot of races to unlock, a lot of machines to unlock, which is what they call the karts, by the way, and there's so many customization options, and there's this whole story mode thing, which is actually kind of cool, because you level up your character on this road trip, and yeah, everything here is short and bite-sized, but there's a lot of it, and it's all good. But you really do need to play this game with other people, either locally or online, and you need to be on board with this unique one-button control scheme, because yes, it really is just one button, basically. This isn't a game about mastering mechanics as much as it is about having fun with friends, and given that I personally don't have people in my life who are interested in these sorts of games, Kirby Air Riders doesn't offer me much. It's a great game in the same way that Mario Party is a great game. It's a joyful, polished, robust offering that lets you and your friends have fun together, but take the friends out of the equation, and playing it then mostly feels like you're kind of just going through the motions. Alright, so let's start talking about that one-button control scheme thing, since I'm sure mention of that comes as a little bit of a surprise to anyone who wasn't expecting it. It's kind of Kirby Air Riders' whole thing. So first things first, there are no acceleration or brake buttons here. Your machine will automatically go forward at its top potential speed all the time. There is no brake button, but there is a boost button, which will slow you down and can even bring you to a complete stop. That's intended to let you take corners at a really sharp angle so you can then slingshot out of them. And this is essentially the main driving mechanic in the game, since steering is pretty straightforward. And since the game is really fast paced, you're relying on this skillful use of the boost mechanic to give you an edge over other racers. That same boost button is also used for a bunch of other stuff too. It's used to suck up powers like fireballs or plasma blasts or whatever. It's used to fire those projectiles once you've acquired them, and it's also used to steal power-ups from other players. So yeah, that one button is doing a lot of heavy lifting, and it may seem like there's too much packed into that one button, but because the racing and combat are so simple, it all works. The game is not, strictly speaking, one button only, since you will use the Y button to activate your special attack every few minutes, and you'll twirl the control stick to initiate a spin that's used to attack other players. But given how infrequently you use the Y button, and given that the stick is technically not a button, calling it one button gameplay is fair, I think. It's important to understand how this one button game design affects other aspects of the game, especially track design. So you see all these tracks here where you're racing over narrow sections with no walls. In a game like Mario Kart, you'd fall off those, but in Kirby Air Riders, 99% of the time there are invisible walls that stop you from falling. Track design is also designed to funnel you forward all the time, so you'll almost never get stuck in a corner. I'll put it this way. I didn't realize that you could reverse in this game until after I'd put more than a dozen hours into it, and the only reason I found that out was because I saw it in your tutorial menu. You just don't need it because you'll rarely be getting stuck on things. So this one button game design, this guardrailed forward funneling level design is a bit of a blessing and a curse, I think, depending on who you are and what you're chasing. For hanging out with your friends and party scenarios, it's great because everyone can immediately pick up and play. You just tell them to hold the B button to boost, and they can probably figure out the rest themselves in the next minute or two. This also makes it really great for kids, since one of the biggest reasons kids can't handle Mario Kart is because they fall off ledges or get stuck on stuff, and that just doesn't happen here. But the flip side to that is that playing Kirby Air Riders doesn't feel as satisfying to play as other kart races, because it often feels like it's playing itself, or it's not really asking a lot of you. Now, that is not to say that this game doesn't have a skill ceiling, because it absolutely does. Each of the machines have vastly different handling profiles and capabilities. One of the machines has an insane top speed, but basically can't turn, and you need to steer it almost exclusively through boost braking. Another one can't boost, but to compensate, it has really high stats across the board. Another one can glide over huge distances with ease. Another one gets a speed boost when it starts gliding, encouraging you to aim for every ramp you see, etc., etc. So mastering all of these machines is a big part of mastering the game, especially since certain machines excel in different game modes. So you do actually want to get to grips with quite a few of them so you know how to make the most of them. But it's more than just the machines when it comes to the skill cap. Baked into the core gameplay are a number of clever, often subtle mechanics that will separate good from great races. Obviously, there's things like, booster pads and pickups, and knowing how to make the most of them really matters. But there's also things like star trails, which are basically slipstreams left behind by other races, and if you're able to ride them, you can get a huge speed boost. You also get a boost for successfully attacking enemies, and the more you attack in a row, the larger that boost is. You also get a boost for executing a perfect landing after you glide, and there's also boost braking, which involves essentially pumping the boost button so you can make sharper turns without slowing down too much.
Start!
There are a dozen or so of these little gameplay flourishes, and when you add them all up, you can imagine how someone who's mastered all of them can outperform someone who's just, steering and hoping for the best. I'm low-key scared of how the online mode for this will end up being, since it feels like the sort of experience where you go in all confident being like, how difficult can a game with only one button be? And then you end up coming last place, but the first place racer finishing a full 90 seconds ahead of you in a race that only lasted 2 minutes. I think that's the not-so-secret genius of Sakurai. He builds things that are immediately accessible and seem simple until you dig into the mechanics and see that the skill gap those mechanics enable is vast. I'm not saying that this is Smash Brothers level sophistication, but I am saying that there's a lot more going on here than just one button gameplay. Having said that, even in its finest moments, Kirby Air Riders wasn't giving me the same highs I felt in other races, be they Mario Kart or Diddy Kong Racing or Burnout or Gran Turismo, and it also wasn't giving me the same highs I'd had from the brawl modes in Mario Kart or from scoring a great goal in Rocket League. The mechanical flourishes present here often don't have enough room to breathe, overpowered by visual noise or tracks that are too short, or a haphazard approach to pickup placement that feels more random than strategic, or game modes that don't leverage the game's full strengths. I did the training courses that taught me these mechanics, and I imagined what it would feel like to utilize them, but it feels very different to put them into practice because the racing and combat stages feel like they're trying to cram too much into too small a space and too short a time limit. I like what's here, I just want to be able to experience it for a little longer before being shuttled back to the menu screen, a complaint that only intensifies when you start exploring some of the game's other modes. A lot of what I just spoke about then is specific to the traditional racing modes in the game, and they're certainly a big part of it, but there are a lot of other game modes too, so let's go through them now. This is the main menu for the game. You'll see Air Ride as the first option. This is the traditional racing experience like I just described. You can do it solo against AI, up to 4 players, local PvP, or online matches. The next one is called Top Ride, which is funny because that's a suburb in Sydney with a big shopping centre. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Top Ride is a game mode that starts to make Kirby Air Riders feel a little more like that party game package I've been describing. It's still racing, but it's in an isometric perspective on really short courses where the entire race takes like less than a minute sometimes. They're very simple tracks, there are less pickups. It reminds me of the old top-down Micro Machine games from the 16-bit era, which I loved, but they're pretty old now, and I don't think Top Ride is doing enough to justify itself as a standalone game mode. If it was a mini-game attached to other game modes, it'd make a lot of sense, but I just can't see people spending too much time in this game mode when the others offer so much more. Those looking for their non-racing kicks are far more likely to spend their time in the next game mode, City Trial. This is a clever spin on the brawler model where a bunch of people are dropped onto a cityscape map and they all spend a few minutes running around trying to collect as many power-ups as they can before the time expires. The power-ups are literal stats for your character, and you can find them laying around or you can knock them out of your opponents and then hoover them up. At the end of this phase, all of your stats are visible, and so you may have a machine with plenty of glide stats or high speed stat or whatever. You then vote on a mini game decider, and so you'll want to pick a game mode that works really well for your stats. So if you've got a lot of points in offensive stats, then you probably want to pick something that's brawler focused, etc. It can mean that you have no hope of winning sometimes because the game mode demands stats that you just don't have. That's the nature of party games. There's always a dice roll and it's all in good fun. New record. The final game mode is probably where you'll spend most of your time when playing solo. It's called Road Trip, and it's a lengthy story mode where you head down a big long road, and every milestone gives you 3 event options, and they could be anything from across all of the game modes and tracks, or even some stuff unique to Road Trip. By winning these events, you'll collect stats for your character, currencies, and new machines, all toward the goal of beating bosses along the way, with each one unlocking a new story cutscene that just so happens to be narrated by the Drifter from Destiny 2.
Zora, a living machine, possessing its own will, but unable to move on its own.
So this game mode is actually pretty cool in that it's a great playlist for what the game has to offer. Like, you just boot it up and let the game take the wheel, offering you a conveyor belt of fun events to pick and choose from. I played through it on normal, and I would definitely recommend playing it on hard if you're looking for any sort of challenge. More broadly though, as much as I enjoyed this for its novelty, I still struggled with how short some of these events are. I mean, here's an example. Go! And that's it. That's how short it is. And that's not the only one like this. I'll put it this way. You spend as much time in menus and loading screens and on this open road section as you do in actual events in this game mode. And as such, it never really achieves the momentum that I needed it to for it to feel like something I'd want to spend a lot more time in. Outside of that, Kirby Air Riders has a really nice approach to unlocking stuff and plenty of customization options. Similar to Smash, you'll unlock stuff just by playing, or more specifically by completing tasks as you play. There's a big mosaic-style mural for each of the game modes, with each tile representing a challenge that rewards you with something if you complete it. It could be a new character, a new machine, a new colorway for your customizable license, new hats for your characters, all of it available just by playing. No in-game cash shop here. AAA publishers will say it's fake. And the customization is pretty next level here. You really can go to town on each of these machines. Their chassis remain the same, but their colors and patterns and decals and visual effects and sound effects and charms, they're all fair game, allowing you to quickly create an entire garage of machines unique to you. And speaking of which, there's an actual garage that you can put them in. The garage does nothing in terms of functionality, but it looks cool as hell, so Sakurai knew exactly what he was doing when he put this feature in. And that's the thing, right? Kirby Air Riders is best understood in that context, I think. It's a game from a legendary game maker. It's clearly his passion project, and he probably had to twist a few arms to get it made. It doesn't feel designed by committee or focus group tested. It's not trying to appeal to the broadest possible audience. It feels like a funny little game that a few people wanted to make because they wanted to. If Sakurai and his team had a goal of shipping 30 million units, then this game would be vastly different, but it's not trying to do that. So the game is just its own weird little package, unlike anything that exists or has existed since the original all those years ago. If I were looking for a low-stakes party game, or I had a group of friends that I regularly played Switch games with, then this would be a really solid pickup, because every single decision feels pointed towards the goal of fast fun with friends. But I personally don't fall into that category, and so Kirby Air Riders isn't for me. With some changes here or there, it might have been. The racing feels a little too on rails for me, and too many of the game modes are too short, resulting in me spending more time in menus than actual gameplay. I can appreciate what's here, but I suspect that Kirby Air Riders will remain a more niche offering in the same way that the first game was, and I don't think Sakurai was aiming for anything different. If you fall into that niche, then you're going to have a great time with this. For everybody else, I do think that other racing games, fighting games, and party games will probably serve you better. If you truly love video games, then there's a good chance you'll love this video sponsor, Lost in Cult. They're the outfit that put out thoughtful and beautifully designed book and music collections based on iconic games like Outer Wilds, Animal Well, Valhalla, and more. Well, they're back at it, celebrating a genuine cult classic, Mouthwashing, with another one of their stunning design work collections. As with all books in the Design Works range, this is more than just an art book. It's a one-of-a-kind exclusive deep dive that delves into the darkest, dingiest corners of the game's development, its myriad influences, and the macabre secrets behind its ill-fated cast and the Tulpa, the grimy, dilapidated freighter the game is set in. As always with the Lost in Cult Design Works range, there's a limited deluxe edition available exclusively during its pre-order campaign, which runs up until November 28th. The deluxe edition offers fans myriad mouth-washing extras alongside the book itself, taking inspiration from the sights and sounds aboard the Tulpa. The deluxe edition comes encased in a Dragon Breath themed box. Upon receiving the Dragon Breath delivery, fans can expect to find a micro tabletop role-playing game designed by Dungeon Club Games, expanding the playing experience complete with a set of mouthwashing themed dice. Also included is a range of paper ephemera, poll postcards, A3 posters, a psychological evaluation form, and a 3D papercraft party set. Rounding out the collection is an eerie embroidered patch. For the early birds, the first 1,000 deluxe editions will come with an art card signed by core members of the Wrong Organ team. This is a truly premium package for the dedicated mouthwashing fan, be that yourself or someone you know, since Christmas is around the corner and there's few better gifts than a lovingly crafted Lost in Cult Design Works collection. Lost in Cult always produce truly incredible collections that are a must-have, and they've constantly supported the channel over the years, so if this looks like it's up your alley, please show your support and help support the channel in turn by using offer code SKILLMOUTH at lostincult.co.uk, or just click the link in the description below to get 5% off this brand new mouthwashing Design Works collection or anything from their amazing store right now. Thanks Lost in Cult for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.